So being present is a present to yourself. And I agree with everything Hannah said. It's really hard to be present and be mindful when there's stress or concern in the air. But this month's theme is presence, which is very helpful. And our chalice circles, we've been exploring living love through the practice of presence. And chalice circles are small groups that look at our monthly theme and have a discussion. And so what gifts do you find when you pay attention to others, to a child? Pay attention to the flow of your breath, the flow of an ocean. Something bigger than yourself enters the scene. I notice when I find myself getting anxious that I'm drawing upon some of the things I did in my sabbatical. I really fell in love with finger labyrinths. And I've placed them all over my office, all over my house, and I just trace them. And if I make myself go slow that it annoys me, I know that my breath will soon follow. And so I think those self-regulating items can really just be a pause before you respond. Many of us are tender, quick to act or speak or email or chat or whatever it is, and just to think about, what is it that people are going through right now, or walk a mile in other people's shoes, at least metaphorically. And you can also do things like candle gazing. And I won't bore you by standing there the length of time that it would magically make me calm down. But the thing about candles is they sway and they move and the wax goes into itself. And it's different each time. There's all sorts of candles. And these are made to go very slowly, so you won't see it go down. But these are the tools before us. When we think, like, what's in my office? What's in my room? What's in my car? I carry a beaded bracelet, and I'll sit there like some people who do prayer beads, and we'll just touch a bead at a time during a meeting or just to kind of regulate myself. And by doing that, we are able to notice things, like to notice the beautiful notes that we just heard during our giving, to notice that people worked hard to make this sanctuary beautiful, to notice our gardens, or to notice small things and big things. And the world is shot through with unnoticed gifts and grace. I was at a meeting on Wednesday, and being who I am, I don't like to ask for help. And my foot was really swollen from rheumatoid arthritis. And I didn't want to worry people, so I was running around with a microphone, and then I realized that was really not good. So I sat down and I said, hey, can somebody help me run the microphone? And Danny Higley got up, and it was just a simple thing. But to ask for help not only is smart, but it also witnesses that we don't have to, we're not superheroes, we're human. And today my foot doesn't hurt, so I can run around with a microphone for somebody else if y'all need that. But the nice thing is that we're here to help one another. That's part of our UU values, is that we recognize that we're human. We don't have to be some person on a pedestal or some person that has it all together. Because the truth is, the world is a messy place. And we need places where we can come and be held and heard and listened to. Places where we can share, and like we do during Joys and Concerns. So what powerful meaning does presence have for you? What gift is waiting to emerge? And so I think about yesterday, we had a very joyful event in this space, and two members, Carl Mackey and Ryan LeMay, stood up here after 20 years together, and they gave their whole hearts, and it was just so beautiful. And I love being a part of a community that doesn't tell me what gender, what ideological bar, or whatever it is. I can perform weddings here to celebrate love. And we do that to support people's rights and to support who they are. And it's part of our welcoming congregation. And that's powerful in these times. And so that in itself is a presence. And this place was packed. They planned the wedding in a month. Most people do it, but they saw that that was something that they needed and wanted to do. And I just thank this congregation for being a place like that. So I want to share a story that I found on presence. And this is from Robin Sharma. It's from his book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And the story summarizes the importance of valuing the present moment. It's called Peter and the Golden Thread. Peter was a young boy who could never live in the moment. When he was in school, he dreamed of being outside playing. When he was outside playing, he dreamed of his summer vacation. Peter constantly daydreamed, never taking the time to savor the special moments that filled his days. One morning, Peter was out walking in a forest near his home. Feeling tired, he decided to rest on a patch of grass, and he eventually dozed off. After only a few minutes of deep sleep, he heard someone calling his name. "Peter, Peter," came a shrill voice from above. As he slowly opened his eyes, he was startled to see a striking woman above him. She must have been over 100 years old, and her snow-white hair dangled well below her shoulders like beautiful stream. In this woman's wrinkled hands was a magical little ball with a hole in the center, and from the hole was a golden thread. She said, "Peter, this is the thread of your life. If you pull the thread just a bit, an hour will pass in seconds. If you pull harder, whole days will pass in minutes. And if you pull with all your might, months, even years, will pass by in days." Peter was very excited by this discovery. "I'd like to have it if I may," he said. The woman quietly reached down and gave the ball to the young boy. The next day, Peter was in his classroom feeling restless and bored, and suddenly he remembered his new toy. As he pulled a bit of the golden thread, he found himself playing in his garden. Realizing the power of this magic thread, he soon grew tired of being a schoolboy and longed to be a teenager. So with all the excitement that could bring, so again, he pulled the golden thread. Suddenly, he was a teenager with a pretty partner, very happy, but Peter still wasn't content. He had never learned to enjoy the moment and to explore the simple wonders of every stage of his life. He dreamed of being an adult, so he pulled hard on the thread, and many years flew by in an instant. Now he found that he was a middle-aged adult. His partner was a parent, and they had a house full of kids. But Peter's noticing something else. His once jet black hair had turned gray, and his partner was not as useful as before. Yet Peter still could not live in the moment. He had never learned to do that, so he pulled the thread, and the changes began to appear. Peter was now a 90-year-old man. His thick, dark hair had turned white as snow, and his partner had passed away a few years earlier. His wonderful children had grown up and left to lead their own lives. For the first time in his entire life, Peter realized that he had not taken the time to embrace the wonders of living. He had never gone fishing with his children or taken a moonlit stroll with his partner. He had never planted a garden or read those wonderful books his mother had loved to read. Instead, he had hurried through life, never resting to see the good along the way. Peter was understandably sad. He decided to go to the forest where he would walk as a boy. He lay his head down and he went to sleep. After only a minute, he heard someone calling out his name. "Peter, Peter," cried the voice. He looked up in astonishment to see that it was none other than the woman who had given him the magic bowl. "Have you enjoyed my special gift?" He said, "At first it was fun, but now I hate it. My whole life has passed before my eyes without giving me the chance to enjoy it. Sure, there would have been some sad and great times, but I haven't had the chance to experience either. I feel empty inside. I have missed the gift of living." "You are very ungrateful," said the woman. "Still, I will give you one last wish." He said, "I'd like to go back to being a schoolboy and live my life all over again." So he then returned to his deep sleep. And again he heard someone calling his name and opened his eyes. Who could it be this time, he wondered. And when he opened his eyes, he was absolutely delighted to see his mom standing over his bedside. She looked just as she had looked before. He realized that the strange woman from the forest had indeed granted his wish, and he had returned to his former life. "Hurry up, Peter, you sleep too much. Your dreams will make you late for school if you don't get up right this minute," his mom said. Needless to say, Peter dashed out of bed and began to live the way he had hoped, living a full life and paying attention to the world around him. And so that's a fable, a story, but it's true. It's so true. Sitting at the table with our devices, or not listening because you're thinking about how to respond, or missing out on things maybe because you overschedule yourself. And there's so much beauty. This morning I was rushing around and I heard from upstairs, my mother-in-law said, "There's a beautiful sunrise this morning." And so Carl and I was like, can't miss that. So we went out and looked out at the sunrise, and it was breathtaking. But many times I might have just said, "Oh, okay," and just gone and brushed my teeth or something. But that moment, Carl said, I can't look away. It was just one of those moments that captures you. And those are the things that are gifts, the times when we're transcended out of ourselves. And so thinking about presence as a gift is, when you're with someone and you pay attention, people can tell. People can tell when you are with them and hearing them and empathizing with them. And sometimes we are distracted, and that's just the way life is. But when we can be there, I know being at someone's bedside during a difficult time can be really powerful. And just holding somebody's hand or listening when someone has something on their mind. I've seen people from this congregation sit in a pew or notice that someone cried during service, or just check in, But I think this season where the light will soon get longer again. I know during this month I really noticed how dark it is. And it's a struggle sometimes. It's a struggle to find that joy, that breath of peace. When I was on sabbatical towards the very end, I went and stayed with Lama Yeshe, who's up north at his center. He's a Buddhist monk who once was just someone from this area and went on to study for many years and committed his life to that. But what I noticed about him and his many years of dedicating his life to mindfulness and presence and a very dedicated path of paying attention was his humor. And I noticed that about the Dalai Lama too, when I had the gift of seeing him, is that, we think about paying attention as something, like I'm gonna make my eyes wide and I'm gonna be there. But paying attention is also having humor. It's he had two friends over, and I was just watching them, and it was just funny. I mean, I don't know what I expected I mean, I know Lama Yeshe is a human, and I wasn't putting him on a pedestal, but I don't know, I just expected that we would have more, I don't know, conversations about Buddhist text or something. But I learned, I learned more. We had lunch, and we talked about life experiences and why we chose paths that we did. But it was the listening and finding humor in something. He was like, if you don't laugh at my age, what are you going to do, you know? You know, and I've heard that from other people too, is how we hold life matters, you know? I know when I'm feeling stressed, I kind of feel like I'm walking around like Atlas. And then if I can kind of say, well, question it. Well, why are you feeling stressed? Can you let some of that go? Can you, you know, can I stare at a candle? You know, can I do a labyrinth? Whatever, and try and be kind to myself, and then I have the bandwidth to be present for others. And so I wonder for you in this season, what is it that you want to be present to? Maybe you're wanting to, I don't know what's going on in the world, but not over inundate your brain. Maybe you're wanting to be more mindful to family or to yourself or to do a spiritual practice. But find somebody to support you in that. You know, you're not alone in this world. I think so often we think that we might be, it's easy to feel alone. And I think, you know, we've seen that loneliness is an epidemic in our country, especially for people that, we saw that during the pandemic, with adolescents that are interacting more with their screens sometimes than other people. You know, I've seen that isolation in all sorts of folks, but it's finding that community, you know, that community that listens, that community that loves, and knowing that we're a part of that is powerful. And so lastly, I just wanted to share something I also noticed about presence is that it's not anything planned sometimes. Sometimes it's that unexpected word or that unexpected song. Being mindful is not necessarily that you have to sit for an hour or that you have to be a monk. It's noticing. And I've been looking through old journals and trying to think about my family history. That's something I've been noticing. You know, what is it about me that I want to carry forward from my family history? What are some patterns that I want to let go? What are the patterns in my family? And I come from 5 generations of women who married alcoholics. And I studied that very carefully. And I married someone who didn't drink. And still, I have my own patterns. You know, when you have patterns in a family, how is it that you talk to one another? When I met the love of my life, and I said, well, stop being a jerk. And he said, no, we don't call names. We talk nicely to each other. And I think I've said that before here, but when I was 23, you know, I met him, he was 30, and that was how I knew to talk to people. And so that made a difference in my life. That was breaking a pattern of how I communicated. So there's all sorts of ways to pay attention. And I hope you find the gift of being present to yourself and to each other this season and every day. Thank you.